to this jazz guitar lesson. I'm Chris Whiteman, and thanks for joining me. So today is a continuation of the last lesson I posted, which was voice leading with thirds and sevenths through the changes of Autumn Leaves. So we're going to take that very basic framework of the voice leading with thirds and sevenths, and we're going to add some more single note material to it. And how we're going to do that is we're going to utilize chromatic enclosures. So we're just going to enclose the third and the seventh. And I've written a study with chromatic enclosures that will take you through the whole form of Autumn Leaves. But I just want to take a minute and kind of recap what we did in the last lesson and talk a little bit about how I visualize the thirds and sevenths, as well as point out the significance of the voice leading in the thirds and sevenths. So in the last lesson, we walked through just the thirds and sevenths. We had C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7, E flat major 7, A minor 7, D7, and G minor 6. Now, if you know your shell voicings, and we play the shell voicings through Autumn Leaves, we get C minor 7, F7, B flat major 7, E flat major 7, A minor 7, D7, and G minor 6. Right. So the thirds and sevenths are already in your shell voicings. So visualizing those basic shell voicings really helps me track where the thirds and sevenths are as I move through the form of Autumn Leaves. I'm just following the shell voicings through the changes, right? So if I play my C minor 7, and then I move to my F7, I do it again, and I leave out the root of those chords. I have the flat 7 and the flat third. When the chord changes to F7, now I have the third in the lower voice and the flat 7 in the upper voice, right? So the flat third of C minor becomes the flat 7 of F7, and the B flat, which is your flat 7 of C minor, moves down a half step and becomes the third of F7, right? So this is, what we call voice leading. We have very small movement, we have a common tone, and so when we're looking to create voice leading, we're looking for small movement. And then from the F7, I move to the B flat major 7, right? And I'm seeing that root there that really helps me visually remember in relation to the chord. In this case, the shell voicing. I have B flat, which is my root, A is my major 7, D is my major third, right? I take out the roots again, and it looks like this. Right? So I have A and D, that's my 7th and my 3rd of the B flat major 7, and then to get to E flat major 7, the bottom tone, the A is going to move down a whole step to G, and I retain the top note, which is my D. So I have, against an E flat major 7, I'm seeing that shell voicing. I have root, and then here's my 3rd, and here's my 7th. When I move to the A minor 7, flat 5, we're leaving out the 5th because we're just dealing with thirds and sevenths. If I play my A minor 7 shell voicing, that helps me find my flat 7 and my minor 3rd. And coming from the E flat major 7, bottom note's retained, top voice moves down a whole step in this case. And so I have A would be my theoretical root, G is my flat 7, C is my minor 3rd, and then from A minor 7 to D7, I have D, F sharp, C, right? So the G from the A minor moves down a half step, becomes the 3rd of D7. The C was the minor 3rd of A minor, and that is retained and becomes the 7th of the D7. And then my final cadence for the first 8 bars takes me to G minor 6. We talked about this in the previous lesson, that minor 6 voicings are usually the preferred sound for a tonic minor. A lot of times you'll see G minor 7. It's not wrong, it's just a little darker and more indicative of a tonic minor sound, right? So from the D7, I'm moving, both voices are moving down a whole step, right? And then I end up up with E becomes my 6 of G minor, and B flat becomes my minor third, right? So that's the basic voice leading of the thirds and sevenths, with the exception of the G minor 6. It has the 6 on there. And then in the second example of the last lesson, we took those thirds and sevenths and we played them individually on each chord in half notes to start to create a contour and get a line that moves through the changes. And that line is going to be what we develop today. All we're going to do is create a chromatic enclosure of each third and seventh. So it's a very simple concept in theory. It's just now we have to develop it and reflex it and get it under the fingers. All right, so let's start building our enclosures. So first harmony, C minor 7. The third is E flat. Flat seventh is B flat. We're going to start enclosing the third. So I'm going to start the enclosure a whole step above my target. So I'm going to start on an F, move down a half step, down a whole step so that I'm surrounding the target, and then finally end on the E flat. Now I want that E flat to fall on the downbeat of the measure. I've added 3/8 notes prior to that downbeat. So I have to count back. So that would be the end of 4, the downbeat of 4, the end of 3. So I have to start on the end of beat 3 on the previous measure. So it's like a pickup. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, right? So that's going to be the rhythmic aspect of it. After I've created the enclosure of the third, I'm going to begin moving towards the enclosure of the seventh, right, which is B flat. And I'm going to take the same exact approach. I'm going to start a whole step above my target, right? So this is where I want to end up, on B flat. So I'm going to start on C, move down a half step, move down a whole step so that I've surrounded it, and then target my B flat, right? And so rhythmically, it's going to sound like this. 1, 2, 3. Right? And so basically we've taken and turned it into. And now I have to begin to think about the next chord change, which we know moves to F7. So I want to now create motion that's going to take me to the third of F7, which is A. My previous enclosure took me to B flat, and so I still want to enclose the A. So what do I do? From the B flat, I'm going to move down to the G and then work my way chromatically up to the A, right? You might see it clearer if I change the fingering, but this fingering lays out better, right? So far, if you string everything together, we get this. 1, 2, 3. Now, when I landed on that A, it was on the end of beat 4. So this is actually an anticipation of the next measure. And this creates syncopation, which is a really nice element to have in your solo lines. 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to let the phrase breathe a little bit. And I'm thinking about the next harmony. So this is an important concept, this ability to begin to think ahead, right? So I'm playing on the current change, but I have to be aware of what the next harmony is before it arrives so that I can move the line into the next change. And so I've ended on the third of F7, which is A. The next harmony is B flat major 7, and the third of B flat major 7 is D. In relation to the chord. My D is under the pinky, right? I'm going to create an enclosure of that D. How am I going to do that? I'm going to go a half step above it this time. So, do you start an enclosure a whole step above or a half step above? There's not a rule. Right now, I'm starting most of the enclosures on whatever's diatonic to the key center. That's not a rule that works 100% of the time. It works often, but you always have to use your ears to kind of see what's going to sound best. Here, I'm starting a half step above, then I'm going a whole step below my target. Remember, the target's D, right? And walking my way up chromatically. And then immediately, I want to start targeting the 7th of the B flat major 7, and that's going to be A. So I move down. I'm going a half step above my target. Again, that ends up being diatonic to the key. And then a whole step below, right into the major 7th, right? And by the way, I can look at this as static material as well. If maybe there's a B flat major 7 vamp, it's not moving, I can still target the thirds with enclosures. All right, so I make it to the major 7. And then immediately, I'm thinking about the next harmony, which is E flat major 7. So I want to get to the 3rd of E flat major 7, which is G. G is my target. I'm on A. I'm going to circle around. I'm going to go a whole step below my target and chromatic into it, right? I'm going to do a different fingering, though. I'm going to go, because it lays out better, right? And I'm right there. See how I'm always seeing the shell voicings kind of as an anchor for the lines? And then the next harmony is A minor 7. And it's A minor 7 flat 5, but we're using shell voicing, so we're leaving out the flat 5th. I want to enclose the C, which is my flat 3rd. I'm going to start a whole step above, move down a half step, and then a whole step, and target the minor 3rd, right? And then my 7th is the G. I'm going to do the same exact enclosure, whole step above, down a half step, down a whole step, into the 7th. And then my next harmony is D7. I want to target the 3rd, which is the F sharp. I am going to move down a minor 3rd and up chromatically. We're going to refinger that, though. Right. And there's my enclosure of the 3rd, right? Started a half step below, went down a minor 3rd, came up into it chromatically. Again, I prefer this fingering. And then the next harmony is G minor 6. And I'm going to start a whole step above my target, which is B flat is my target. So I'm going to start on C, move down a half step, move down a whole step, and then into the minor 3rd. And then here, instead of targeting the 7th, which would be F, I'm targeting the E, right? Because we're using G minor 6 here. So I'm just subbing the 6th for the 7th. So from the B flat, I want to get to the E, and the way I'm going to get there is I'm going to start on G, a minor 3rd above my target. Now, I'm moving down to do this chromatic enclosure. I move to F. I'm not really thinking of the F in relation to the G minor. I'm thinking of it as a chromatic enclosure of my target, right? And then I finish my phrase by coming back up to the G, to the flat 3rd, and back to the G. Kind of a slight bluesy vibe there. You can bend that flat flat third if you want. All right, so that's the basic concept of the chromatic enclosures. So I've written an etude that utilizes this approach, and that goes through the whole form of the tune. And I'm going to play it at 120 beats per minute, and then I'll do it again slower at 80 beats per minute. Okay, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you found this information useful. Everything we went over today is available as a PDF download with standard notation, tablature, and backing tracks for my Patreon subscribers, and I'll put a link to that in the description of this video below. Thanks.